Yeah, it's a little weird to see a team being so, sounding so likely to franchise tag a player that is coming off a very late season major knee injury. But it just sounds like there's no way that they're letting him go.
Hello and welcome to episode 348 of the official EstablishedRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan. As always, joined by Evan Silva. The NFL Combine is behind us. Evan has survived. Welcome home, Evan. How's it going? How was the Combine?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I really just hung out for like 4 or 5 hours. I got in around 5:30 last Wednesday. And hung out with Jordan Raanan I can't remember the name of the bar, but hung out with him for a little bit. Went out to dinner with Josh Norris and Hayden Winks. Nick Underhill came and met us. Went to this underground PFF party, and then went home because I'm like an old man and I can't do. There's this place I think it's called Prime 47. That stays open super late, and that's where all the action happens. I didn't make it there. I was in bed by like 10:30, 11. But I think I picked up some stuff. The general flavor of the draft this year is that it is loaded with defensive line pass rushers. I mean, there's like legit 8, 9 week one starters. That doesn't really help, for our purposes when we're doing fantasy football analysis, but it's certainly good to know. I mean, I think that these guys are going to all go off the board, between picks 2 and 25. I mean, it's just absolutely loaded from an edge rushing standpoint. The draft has been compared by analysts like Dane Brugler and Lance Zierlein to the 2013 class, where Eric Fisher went number 1 overall, Luke Jokel went number 2 overall. EJ Manuel was the first quarterback taken around number 16. And you can already see that, Ike Ekwonu is now the favorite to be the number 1 overall draft pick. He's a left tackle out of North Carolina State. Malik Willis might go in that out of Liberty might go in that number 16 range. Although I think that Washington at number 11 would seem to be his floor. I think he generated a ton of buzz in Indy, and we'll get to some guys later in the show that generated some buzz. But it's an interesting year, but it is a year that is not top heavy. Like there are not big time quarterbacks. We've got the kid Kenny Pickett from Pittsburgh. I think I saw a good comparison for him, like Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is a solid starter in the NFL, but he was a 4th round pick, So I think that's what we're looking at from the quarterback position. I'm intrigued. There's a lot of speed at wide receiver. I think there were 8 wide receivers that ran in the 4.3s. But I don't know. We'll be breaking this thing down, over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I'll say a few things. First, Evan let the entire show down by not drinking until 3 o'clock in the morning with Sean Payton and getting him to say things like Alvin Kamara is soft. So no good job there for Evan. Second of all, I would say that from what I can tell, I mean, you could see a top 10 with no skill players. I mean, maybe one or maybe, but man, I mean, you could see a top 10 with no skill players. And obviously that's disappointing for us from a fantasy perspective, but there will be plenty of guys that we're going to talk about here. And yeah, I mean, I think the speed thing was to me, the story of the Combine. And I don't know, man. I always say you can't compare eras, right? You can't say that compare LeBron James to Magic Johnson. It's just not fair because all these guys are getting bigger, stronger, faster all the time. The way they're eating, the way they're training, it's just so different. But for them to set records at every single position, the most guys ever to run a sub 4.4, it just felt to me like something was off. Like something's off at Penn State's track too, because all these guys break every measurable. Something felt off in Indy. And I know you left before a lot of the guys ran, Evan, but do you have any takes on all of a sudden these guys running so fast? I mean, like you said, every wide receiver was under 4.4. I mean, it's insane.
Well, the training facilities for the players have improved markedly. That's become the biggest thing. The biggest priority for the players is to get into, go to one of the elite training facilities. So I think, that supports the notion that everybody's getting bigger, faster, stronger.
Oh,
and,
sure.
and they're training at just, at like a legit, like Olympic level. I mean, Michael Johnson, you remember him, the sprinter, he runs a training facility. I mean, they're training at Olympic level athletic performance institutions,
but they've been doing that for the last 2 or 3 years as well, right?
Right. But I mean, I think that there has been more of an emphasis on, and there are just more of those. Number one. Number two, they got a new turf at Lucas Oil Stadium. Yeah. The old turf was considered like legit slow.
That's my point, is that I think it's the turf.
Right. And also, but I should say that this wide receiver class, it was interesting that they didn't really tear it up in terms of like vertical and broad jump and agility drills, but they tore it up in terms of straight line speed. I do think that could say something about the class as a whole, that we're going to get some vertical field stretchers here who aren't necessarily going to be, the greatest route runners or whatever. But I do think that that's a little bit the tone of the class, at least at wide receiver.
All right, we're going to get into some of these guys. We've gone long enough here. Corporate's going to be furious that I haven't done our intro yet. On today's show, we're going to talk about what happened at the Combine. Actually, over the next 2 shows, we are. The rumors, the reports about veterans, the news that was swirling around the NFL Combine. Of course, as Evan noted, the entire NFL was there smashing the natty ices, loose lips. I think we got some good stuff to talk about. By the way, we are baking in the stuff we think was important from the Combine to our rankings. Rookie rankings are up. Best ball rankings are up. Rookies are part of our best ball rankings. Of course, you can find those for free on the site right now for a limited time. Also, wanted to remind everyone of this absurd deal we have with BetMGM right now. I've talked a couple of times about how like this insane cutthroat battle between sports books in America for customer acquisition. It's like, it sucks for them, but it's amazing for bettors. And so an example of it is this deal that BetMGM is willing to do. If you use our link to sign up for BetMGM, you make a $10 bet on BetMGM, they'll send you a coupon for $85 off any ETR product on top of giving you $1,000 in free bets. Head to the betting tab on establishedrun.com for the sportsbook bonus offers page. You'll get the link in there and you'll get more details. All right. One of the biggest stories, I think, Evan, from the Combine was this Amari Cooper story. And so this one wasn't really on my radar, but maybe it should have been, because Amari Cooper due $20 million. Sounds like Dallas is just about done with him. Now, would they have been done with Amari Cooper at this point if they didn't give Ezekiel Elliott this ridiculous contract? And people say, oh, running backs deserve to get paid, just like everybody else. Zeke was playing really well at the beginning of his career. Agreed. The problem is when you're dealing with a salary cap from a team building perspective, when you give Ezekiel Elliott 6 years, $90 million with $50 million guaranteed, and then it comes to also time to pay Amari Cooper, well, you got a problem, man. And their problem that they have now, they can't get out of Zeke contract. They can get out of the Amari Cooper contract relatively cheaply. What do you think about the news out of Dallas that they're going to try to trade, and if they can't trade, they're going to let go of Amari Cooper?
Well, when they signed him to the big deal a couple years ago, like it was clear in that contract that they gave themselves an out after, I believe it was 2 years. And then they were going to have to make a decision, in all likelihood, directly between Michael Gallup, who's a free agent, and retaining Amari Cooper. And the way that they used Amari Cooper had a fine season in real life. Mm-hmm. It was okay. It wasn't his best. But from a fantasy standpoint, he wasn't great. I think he was under 900 yards. And then his target share was 19%. Like, they did not treat him like a number one receiver this past year. They also, their offense at times was like sort of dysfunctional. Their passing offense, Dak was very, very up and down throughout the 2021 season. But yeah, they were always going to have to make this decision. I thought that, I think the initial reaction was that when Michael Gallup tore his ACL, then it would have made it likelier that they retain Amari Cooper. That wound up being not the case, because what they're going to do, they're going to get a discount on Michael Gallup, save a ton of money by moving on from Amari Cooper, short and long term. And I think that they might place the franchise tag on Dalton Schultz, who's coming off a great year.
There's a lot going on with Dallas. Let me start with what happens without Amari Cooper. I mean, CeeDee Lamb, if you start giving CeeDee Lamb like more and more targets, because Cedric Wilson to me is like borderline NFL player, like nothing special. Michael Gallup, of course, is coming off of the injury. I mean, you start giving CeeDee Lamb a lot of targets. I could see CeeDee Lamb being like, I mean, really strong second or third round pick. I mean, really strong. Yeah. I can check here exactly where we have him in our best ball rankings right now. But CeeDee Lamb could really be set up well. And Dalton Schultz could also be set up very well. Also, Blake Jarwin has some rare hip issue that he is not expected to be ready for the start of the season. Dalton Schultz, as Evan said, is a free agent, but Dallas is going to retain him, I think, in some way, shape, or form. So, I mean, Lamb and Dalton are obviously. And
also, Cedric Wilson is a free agent.
Okay.
I think they want him back, but, you know, they're going to have to make that happen.
We have CeeDee Lamb 18th overall right now, the wide receiver 8 in fantasy, just behind guys like Debo, Steph Diggs, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, Davante Adams, Cooper Kupp. So, yeah, I mean, obviously CeeDee Lamb is going to look really, really good. The other thing that I would say about Dallas there.
Just before you get to that, I think that we want CeeDee Lamb in the slot as well. Yep. So I think that, you know, if a team like the Seahawks or somebody swoops in and takes, you know, Cedric Wilson gives them $8 million a year, and the Cowboys are like, no, that's outrageous, and they move on, like that would improve the chances of CeeDee Lamb playing in the slot. Amari Cooper moving on, you know, look, it comes down to targets, but I think that CeeDee Lamb has shown that he's more efficient as an interior receiver.
Yeah. And I mean, they're if they lose Amari, Cedric Wilson, Gallup's not ready, Jarwin, like they're getting low on weapons for a team that I know they were up and down last year, but still fourth in the NFL in yards per play, second in yards per game last year behind only the Chiefs. I know. I'm interrupting the video. Wah. But if you're enjoying this video and want to see more fantasy football and DFS content like it, please just take 2 seconds, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button. Really does go a long way for us, and we'd appreciate it. Thank you for watching, and now back to the show. Let's move on to some of these franchise tag situations. Chris Godwin and Davante Adams reportedly both likely to be franchise tagged. The Davante one obviously makes a ton of sense. Like, just because you lose Aaron Rodgers, or if they think they're going to lose Aaron Rodgers, doesn't mean you also have to lose Davante Adams. Will he be happy about it? I don't know. And then Chris Godwin, obviously coming off of the injury here. Shout out Penn State, Chris Godwin. You saw the offense kind of crater when Chris Godwin got hurt and Antonio Brown was gone. I mean, they could not do what they did on an efficiency basis with the passing game. So I do think Chris Godwin is a very, very, very important part of this team. What do you think about reports that both Chris Godwin and Davante are likely to get franchise tagged?
Yeah, it just seems extremely likely, even regardless of what happens with Aaron Rodgers, which from the combine, it sounds to me like it's just down to Green Bay and Denver. Mm-hmm. He's not going to – there's very little chance that he goes anywhere else between those two places. And I think it's like 75-25 probably that he stays in Green Bay, barring something unexpected. When the Packers tag Davante Adams, which they are going to do, and then I think that the percentage goes up then that Aaron Rodgers stays. Mm-hmm. As for Chris Godwin, yeah, it's a little weird to see a team being so, sounding so likely to franchise tag a player that is coming off a very late season major knee injury. But it just sounds like there's no way that they're letting him go. They have another big free agent in Carl. They actually have a ton of big time free agents on the offensive line, on defense. But another one is in particular is Carlton Davis. Mm-hmm. But it sounds like they are much likelier to give the franchise tag to Chris Godwin despite the injury than Carlton Davis. That's just where they are as a team in terms of their team planning.
Yeah, I mean, quarterback play from Chris Godwin is going to be a concern. DraftKings has a market up right now. Who will take the first snap at quarterback for the Bucs in the 2022 season? The favorite is Kyle Trask at plus 300. Jimmy Garoppolo is next at plus 550. Then Carson Wentz, then Blaine Gabbert, then a rookie, then Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, there's not a lot of options for the Bucs at the quarterback position. Obviously not great for Chris Godwin on top of the injury situation. Cole Beasley's situation is interesting. Man, it felt like they soured on him some last year, even though they were still running a ton of 4 wide receiver sets. There were games, and maybe he was banged up, but there were games Cole Beasley was not playing very much. And in the one game that Cole Beasley missed, Isaiah McKenzie, 11, 125, 1 on a 25% target share against the Patriots. Isaiah McKenzie is also a free agent. I kind of want to see them let Cole Beasley go and give Isaiah McKenzie a chance to be a primary slot receiver in the spread offense. What do you think about Cole Beasley's market and anything else on Bills wide receivers?
Yeah, they might get a conditional 7th for Cole Beasley at best, maybe just end up releasing him outright. Mm-hmm. I mean, he pissed a lot of people off with the his comments on Twitter, that didn't help. He's getting old. I mean, he's like 32 going on 33. And yeah, you're right. He was like a rotational role player this past year. And Isaiah McKenzie, we've never seen a team give him a shot to be a true full-time player in any capacity. He even at one point lost his return role in Buffalo. But you're right. When he's been given opportunities, I think they're still going to want to keep him as like a number 4 receiver. But, they've got Diggs, Gabe Davis. I think that they're a candidate to use like high picks on receivers, maybe multiple, or be active on the free agency market. I'd be very surprised if Emmanuel Sanders is back. We're going to see some shuffling in that Buffalo receiver core.
This is a wide receiver version of the episode, but I did have to bring up this David Njoku tight end thing. I mean, it's kind of shocking at first to see them use the franchise tag on David Njoku, considering like I'm just so tilted they never used the guy. I didn't think they even thought highly enough of him to give him the franchise tender. He only ran 19 routes a game last year, only had a 10% target share. He's like a mediocre blocker. But if you zoom out, I mean, a talented guy, we see tight ends break out on their second contract so often, and $10.8 million for 1 year is really not that big a deal for a guy as talented as David Njoku, assuming they use him. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on this. Like, what is Cleveland thinking? I'm desperate for them to use him more. Maybe this means that they will. I don't know.
I think they're absolutely going to use him more because I don't think that Austin Hooper is going to be back with the team.
Okay.
I think that they're going to roll with David Njoku and Harrison Bryant as their top 2 tight ends. Austin Hooper is fine, but, he doesn't justify his contract. He's just not a dynamic weapon. He's a pure possession receiver. And I thought that David Njoku took a step forward as a blocker when he was given opportunities. Like he's a dynamic playmaker, and he's 25 years old, bro. I mean, he's 25 years old. He's one of these guys that came out of college, wasn't even of legal drinking age. He came out of college. He was very, very young. And now his rookie deal's up. He's only 25. I think he's got a bright future in the NFL. I think it's a good move by the Browns to keep betting on a talent like that, especially at his age when the trajectory is up. I've seen a lot of criticism of them for doing this by people that just kind of don't get it.
Yeah. No, I think it's fine, especially if they can get out from Austin Hooper's contract. I don't think you can have supposedly they're going to franchise Njoku and then try to work on a long-term deal with him. You can't have Austin Hooper on a 4-year, $42 million deal and also David Njoku on some big deal. If Austin Hooper is released or traded before June 1, dead cap hit is $11.2 million. Current cap hit, if you get rid of Austin Hooper, current cap hit if Austin Hooper stays on the team is $13.2 million. His base salary is $9.5 million. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to see David Njoku without Hooper and see what he can do. One other quick Browns note. A lot of rumors around Jarvis Landry and Browns wanting to trade him. I don't know what the market is for like an older possession receiver like Jarvis Landry. It's just they're getting thin on weapons, man. And maybe it's not all these guys' fault. Think about how bad Odell Beckham was in Cleveland, and then he goes to LA and he just starts shredding immediately. So I don't know. They have weapons problems. They have scheme problems. They have efficiency problems. I mean, their offense was just so non-explosive. So any more thoughts on the Browns? I mean, God, their offense is going to be, if assuming they lose Hooper, Landry, obviously they don't have Odell, it's pretty thin.
Yeah, I mean, I think it means that we're going to see a lot more opportunities for Njoku. And, they're going to build around their offensive line. They've still got the 2 RBs coming back. But, yeah, I mean, they're going to have some work to do in the pass catcher core for sure.
All right, let's get to you know what? Let's get to these prospects. And so we haven't fully dove into the prospects yet. Anthony Miko is just doing an absolute crush job for us on the Dynasty stuff. He has profiles up. This is all free, by the way. He has profiles up on every single top tier prospect at the skill position players. But I did want to mention some of these wide receivers who I think improved their stock at the combine. First one is Skyy Moore, 5'10", 195. Runs a 4.41. Vertical and broad were fine. 34.5 vertical, 125 inch on the broad. But I think, Evan, people were saying at the combine that you could be looking at a day 1 pick for Skyy Moore. What'd you hear on that?
Yeah, because one of the knocks on him, on Skyy Moore coming out of Western Michigan, was that he was not a great separator. but that 4.41 speed shows that maybe there's some untapped potential there that, the coaches didn't help him, reach his maximum potential at Western Michigan or what have you. And just that the speed to get open is absolutely there. And so that will make, the evaluators go back, take another look at his tape, maybe move him up the board just because, he's he moved up higher in their athletic ratings. But no, that was a very important one. And he was definitely a guy who generated a lot of buzz in Indy. I heard multiple times, hey, this Skyy Moore dude is better than what people know or what people think.
I always have to bring up the Notre Dame guys for Evan. Kevin Austin measured 6'2", 200, ran a 4.43 at the combine. Again, I'm taking all these numbers with the 40s with a grain of salt because I do think that the track was much faster. But anyways, Kevin Austin, 4.43 at 6'2", 200, 39-inch vertical, 132-inch broad jump. I think currently projected to be a mid-round pick, but certainly helped his stock at the combine as a Notre Dame homer. What do you think of Kevin Austin's combine?
Well, I saw these guys live multiple times, sitting right at the 50, right behind the bench, so I could see even the dudes interacting. I know you skipped ahead to Kevin Austin, but Kieran Williams, who had a horrible showing from a workout metric standpoint, he was the leader of the team. I mean, the team rallied around this dude. He had a galvanizing effect on the sideline. He was the team leader. Kevin Austin had only 49 catches last year, but he averaged almost 19 yards per catch. He was their big play guy. He would sort of, disappear for stretches. But man, this was a great workout for him. I mean, 11-foot broad jump. What was his 40 again?
4.44. I just deleted it, but I think it was 4.41 or something.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, he absolutely crushed it. 39-inch vertical. He's big. He's definitely a guy that we're going to be talking about. I mean, he checks every box athletically, and he was a downfield playmaker in college.
Yeah, 4.43 was the official time for Kevin Austin. Just a couple workout freaks I just wanted to mention here that caught my eye. I don't really know anything about these guys, to be honest, but their workouts were insane. Alec Pierce out of Cincinnati, 6'3", 211, and ran a 4.41 with a 40.5-inch vertical. I mean, that is insane for Alec Pierce. Christian Watson out of North Dakota State, 6'4", 208, ran a 4.36. I mean, these dudes are freaks. Now,
that's a guy, Christian Watson. People were talking about him in Indy. He, at the draft media sites had him as a 7th round PFA priority undrafted free agent, but he's going on day 2.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, dude had 31 catches in 52 games for North Dakota State. I get it, but man, 32
you remember Trey Lance, he had no dropbacks, that's just kind of the way that they play.
Yeah. Christian Watson will be 23 years old soon. Last guy I wanted to mention is Calvin Austin. And we run into this every year with these small guys. And I'm always labeled as the guy who hates the small guys at wide receiver. But, it's not that impressive to run a 4.32 like Calvin Austin ran when you're 5'8", 170. If you're 5'8", 170, it's hard to get on an NFL field and use that speed. So I just wanted to point that out, that you have really got to be looking at weight adjusted stuff. And honestly, weight for wide receiver, I actually prefer it to running back. We're going to talk about running backs in the next episode, but these guys like Calvin Austin, is just not that interesting to me at all. All right. We've said it all on the combine wide receiver rumors and our first kind of glance at some of these workouts for the wide receivers. We'll be back next episode to talk running backs, quarterbacks, tight end, other positions from the combine, both veterans and prospects. If you're listening on iTunes or any other place podcasts are found, we really appreciate if you guys go ahead and hit the subscribe button. It is free and helps us out a ton. For Evan, for producer Luke, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.